I'm Marijke Weewauters from the head of the Federal Service on Gender-Based Violence, based in the Institute for Equality Between Women and Men. And in that, the Institute for Equality Between Women and Men is a federal institute, a unit who is at one part the administrator of the government. So in that part, we are collecting data on forced marriages. We are making doc number services. We are making up the National Action Plan on Gender-Based Violence, which has a great deal on forced marriages as well. But we are also an equality body, and in this equality body, we are elaborating tools, sensitization tools towards care people, towards registers. And this is the last project, is very useful. We had found out that registers are having an opportunity, having a legal basis in Belgium to protect and to deal with forced marriages. And but we found out that they don't know how to act upon, how to see the signs. They didn't know what forced marriages was. They didn't know what the differences between forced marriages and share marriages. They went to deal with share marriages, even though they were confronted with forced marriages. So we made a toolkit for them, how to see the sign, what to do, how to interview when you're seeing a victim or a perpetrator on forced marriages, how to deal with them, how to protect the victims, and what are to-dos and to-don'ts. So we made up a toolkit for the registers to deal with forced marriages, but also to recognize the signs of forced marriages and to see the differences between forced marriages and sham marriages. The focus on elaborating this tool, because it was a very big deal, because this is the focus on the project is we are forced in Belgium as well, like every other country. There's a great difference between the dark number, the real problem of forced marriages, the prevalence of forced marriages, and the low official data, the low data on police records, the low data on registers who are postponing forced marriages. So the real issue is here, how to see the signs, to give the possibility the lost victim, the lost person who can prevent forced marriages is the register. They are the last one to see the victim. They are the last one to have the legal possibility to protect the victim and to end a possible forced marriages. They are the last one have a legal basis on this one to prevent the real forced marriages. And we dealt with that because we knew that for the registers didn't know how to act, and we didn't saw the registers themselves to act, to protect the victims. They didn't know how to deal with it. They didn't know to see the forced marriages. They didn't know have the sensitization towards. So we give them a toolkit, a really helpful toolkit, what questions to be asked. And if you don't have a doubt, okay, we have your marriages. But if you have a doubt, and maybe you don't know what to do with it, maybe you can postpone, and maybe you can then have an individual with the victim. And then at that point, you have to protect already the victim. You have to refer the victim. But if you have a real sign, a really big sign of forced marriages, then you have to legally not only postpone, but you have to ignore the marriage, you say, and you have to contact directly the public prosecutor. So this was a very useful toolkit to having the last opportunity, the last legal basis to prevent forced marriages, but also to protect the victim, because at that point we have to protect the victim. The implementation of the toolkit was very good received, because we have made up the toolkit with the registers themselves, with the NGOs themselves. So we have made up the toolkit. What do you need? what interview you can do and what legal basis you have. So we made up the toolkit with them. We introduced it to them, and then we evaluated the toolkit. Is this toolkit useful for you? Is it okay for you? Did you use it? Or is there something you need for support? And the evaluation was so well received. We have evaluated, we have asked every register in Belgium, and more than half of them answered the question. And most of them said the toolkit is very useful because of the toolkit, more than 20% said we have seen the signs every year. More than 31% of the register said we see more than once a year a victim of forced marriages. So the dark number we thought there were there as a sign. They said, really, we see it thanks to the toolkit, thanks to the tips and the tricks and to do's and to don'ts. We now have a tool how we can deal with it. But they said themselves, we still need more. We still need more support because it's so difficult to see the difference between the sham marriages and the forced marriages. They asked, give us some training, more training. We need every year a more in-depth training together with the NGOs because it's so hard. We want to have an in-depth training together with the NGOs also to give a warm referral towards we can, if we see a victim, to whom we have to refer. We can give a call to the NGOs. And that's what they ask now. And that's what we ask as well to the ministries and the ministers. And the ministers reacted already upon, they said, we are going to install every year a training for the registers because the data are there. 13.1% is saying we see every year more than twice a victim of forced marriages in our bureau, in our cabinet. The process on building up this toolkit was not that long, but the importance is that we had made this toolkit with the registers themselves and with the NGOs themselves. The process was long because we wanted to use the tips and tricks together with the NGOs to ask them what are the words we can use when you see a victim, what are the words you can use or don't use when you see a perpetrator, and we see the whole family. But because this was a science, for example, one of the signs is if there is a procedure for asking a marriage, the whole family is there, and how to address with the family, what words you can use, what words you can't use. Don't use, for example, already you are a victim and you are a perpetrator, because then you confront someone who is not dealing with the problem already. And these, how to address them in every language, what words you can use in every language and not use in which culture you can use these words. This was a really slow process because we wanted to have these words accepted from every NGO, so we can use the right words towards all the possible victims and towards all the possible perpetrators. So at that point, we are really protecting the victim. This is a very long and slow process because we wanted to have the acceptance and the support of every NGO and every community in this tool. But the fact, once the tool was made, addressing and having this information towards all the registers, it was a very quick one. Everyone accepted it very quickly and everyone evaluated it very quickly. And they said, because it's the first time we have a tool on this one. In Belgium, we have a very good legal base on how to deal with forced marriages. I think on legal basis, we are very good on how to deal with forced marriages. We have also a very good directive for the police and for the public prosecutors, how to deal with forced marriages. It is a directive on honor-based crimes, so-called honor-based crimes. We have a reference magistrate, we have a registered reference police in every system. But in the fact, it is very hard, still hard to train everyone. To have the multidisciplinary working on this issue, that for example, registered police and public prosecutors are working together with NGOs to have a multidisciplinary working process. We are still working on this one. We have also, we have to install now, we are working on it, to install, like in the Netherlands, like in the UK, really specialized NGOs who are trained to have care for these victims, and these people have to need to collaborate with a very warm and very outreach project with the police and the public prosecutors and everyone, because we haven't installed this one, and that we are dealing now. We want to have a specialized NGO care center for force managers as well. On a national basis, on a political basis, we in the Institute are dealing with, on a national basis, that we have to have on a political level, everyone is working on this one, on force managers. So we installed some political cooperation network, so every political is working together on an administrative level, and we are the one. Institute for Equality has the mandate to collect all this information on data for everyone, so we can see the real problem in Belgium. But on a local basis, we want to install national, local multidisciplinary centers, so everyone has to work together. There's a local policy on multidisciplinary working together. So if, for example, a police or register wants an advice from an NGO, for example, a school has a sign for a possible victim with them, that they know how to call, whom to call, at what moment, what to do at what moment. Is it orange? We don't know how to deal. Is it still a possibility to mediate, for example, with the parents or the family? Is it this kind of collaboration we need? Or is it already directly legal basis we have to deal with? We have to protect the victim. We have to protect the victim, and we have to put her or him in a care center, really protected from the perpetrators, from the family. This is the deal we have to check, and it has to be built up on a local multidisciplinary level. So police have a specialized people. Prosecutors have specialized people, and they know whom they can contact at the NGOs, and that everyone is working together on a multidisciplinary local basis. The prevention projects in Belgium is at different levels. We are having now specialized NGOs with ambassadors who are outreaching, talking to different communities, to different women communities, and at a very low, informal way, are trying to build up a base to try to talk about this issue on a very outreaching, local, informal, but very preventive way. This is we have NGOs with 27 ambassadors from 27 communities. They are talking at schools, they can talk to the women's societies. They are outreaching there to try to talk on a very preventive way on this project, on force managers, on FGMs, on women and violence, sexual violence, every possibility. This is a very outreaching preventive way. And schools, we have built up some toolkits for schools as well, how to deal with this problem, how to see the signs, and to whom you have to refer if you see the signs, and how to deal with it, how to address it on a very non-victim blaming, culture sensitive, informal way. This is different projects on a very low, informal, outreaching way to address this issue. The greatest challenges for me is, if you're talking about forced marriages, it's still an issue, a taboo issue. It's still hard to find out, hard to reach the victims. The victims themselves are not speaking out. It's difficult to see the difference, the loyalty towards the community themselves, towards their family, and to seek help. And this is still an ongoing issue. Sensitizing on a culture-sensitive, non-victim blaming way, sensitizing everyone what is forced marriages about, sensitizing everyone that they can seek from help, that the stakeholders can address these issues, and seeing the forced marriages, seeing the sign of forced marriages, and the difference between the forced marriages and the share marriages. Because the difference is, in a forced marriages, you have a victim. And in share marriages, you don't have a victim. And if you address a forced marriage as a share marriage, you are victim blaming. You're not protecting the victim. So sensitizing, training everyone, but also sensitizing the possible victims, the possible family, to seek help, even families who are thinking about using forced marriages. Give them another possibility to deal with the problem they want to deal with. And they are going to use forced marriages to deal with the problem. Give them another opportunity. Open, non-victim blaming, non-blaming way, using the very good language to sensitize everyone, because there are victims there, but we don't see them. And this is still an ongoing process. But at that part, it is very important that we are working together with every stakeholder. This is not me as a civil servant who are writing up this politic. We have to work together with all the NGOs. Together, this is a problem we can only address on a multidisciplinary, respectful, outreaching way, together with the NGOs and together with all the stakeholders. We don't see, Belgium is addressing forced marriage as a gender issue. It is a gender issue. It is an intersectional gender issue. We don't say this is a religion problem. We don't say this is a cultural problem. We are addressing as a gender-based violence issue. And we are saying there are not only some groups, some minorities who are dealing with forced marriages. Forced marriages can be used in every society, in every cultural city. It is a cultural system. It is a woman or a man who is forced to marriage because of some societal problems. And it can be a gender issue, or it can be a high-class society issue. It is a gender-based violence. Someone is forced to marry someone they don't want, or they are not consenting. It is a non-consent problem. It is not a culture. We are not addressing it as a culture or religious or a minority problem. It is a gender-based violence issue. A person is forced to marry without consent. My wishes for the future is that we see as a society, we recognize the victim as soon as possible. We are on every level, for example, at schools, on public prosecutors, with the police, we are talking about the issue on forced marriages. We are seeing the signs, and we, as soon as possible, do everything to protect the victim, but do not victim blaming. That we are talking about the victim, but as soon as possible, because when it's too late, when we are in a situation where the people are already in a very late stadium, forced to marriage, we have to break up something. And if in a very soon stadium, everyone can talk about this issue with respect, maybe we can prevent something more than only forced marriages. We can prevent the future as well at that point.